U.S. President Donald Trump's tariff-induced market mayhem appears to just be getting started. Trading in European markets now underway, and these right here are the numbers. They speak for themselves. They are following Asia's lead with serious losses. Asian markets, they've also been plunging. Just look at these numbers here as well. Major hits across the board. Hong Kong's Hang Seng hit the hardest of all. U.S. stock futures, they are not faring, at least they're not faring any better. The Dow, NASDAQ, and also the S&P 500 futures, they are all down ahead of the new trading week. Despite the turmoil, Mr. Trump defended his tariffs to reporters aboard Air Force One on Sunday.
We will be taking in over $1 trillion over the next short period of time with the tariffs that I've already instituted. They're already in place. Now, what's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger. And eventually, it'll be a country like no other. It'll be the most dominant country economically in the world. I've spoken to many countries. They all want to do, just so you understand the power of what I'm doing, every country is calling and being very solicitous of us. Very, very nice. They're being very nice.
While the Trump administration is downplaying this market volatility, there may be more uncertainty ahead. Larger U.S. tariffs, they are scheduled to go into effect on Wednesday, and that's when the U.S. will place a 54% tariff on all goods imported from China. Now, in the meantime, the president says that he's willing to negotiate with Beijing.
We have $1 trillion trade deficit with China. Hundreds of billions of dollars a year we lose with China, and unless we solve that problem, I'm not going to make a deal. Now, I'm willing to deal with China, but they have to solve their surplus.
We are covering market activity in Asia and in Europe at this hour. Melissa Bell is watching the action from Paris. And our Christy Lou Stout, she's been following Asian trading from Hong Kong. Let's begin there, Christy.
Polo, markets here in the Asia-Pacific region ended this day deep in the red as investors across the region continue to reject U.S. President Donald Trump's sweeping tariff policy. Let's take a look at how the Asian trading day ended, and you can see there red across the board. Deep losses here in Hong Kong, with the Hang Seng losing over 13% this day. Also losses in Japan, the Nikkei losing close to 8%. Seoul Kospi, the S&P ASX in Australia, as well as losses in Shanghai as well. All this on the back of what was announced last week by U.S. President Donald Trump, when he made that announcement saying that there will be at least 10% tariffs on all U.S. imports, effectively upending global trade norms. And ever since that moment, leaders across the Asia-Pacific region have been scrambling to formulate a response. Earlier today, we heard from the Japanese Prime Minister, who said that his government does want to talk and continue to talk with the Trump administration to find out ways to lower the tariffs being applied against his country. The South Korean acting president also advocating for talks, but China advocating a very different, more robust approach. China late on Friday announcing that 34% retaliatory tariff. That is going to kick into gear later this week on April the 10th. And China also over the weekend through state-run media striking a very defiant tone in a number of online commentaries, including a commentary that was later published in today's front cover of the People's Daily, in which it said, look, the tariffs from Donald Trump, they're going to hurt. But as it said, the quote, sky won't fall. In addition to that, saying this, as a responsible global power, we should turn pressure into motivation and see the U.S. impact as a strategic opportunity. The People's Daily also added that China has not closed the door on potential talks with Donald Trump. Back to you, Polo.
All right, Chris Lustow, thank you so much there for the markets in Asia. Let's go now to Europe. Melissa Bell in Paris with the situation there in the markets. Hey, Melissa.
Markets opening way down again this morning, Paula, even as European trade ministers are meeting over in Luxembourg. Now, this is an extraordinary meeting that's been called for by the Polish presidency of the EU Council, and they're urgently looking at how to respond to the tariffs, even as they suggest that they intend to take their time, simply because that they believe that the pressure on the American administration is going to come first and foremost from the markets themselves. We've been hearing from the Polish trade minister, even as he went into that meeting, saying, speaking to the $5 trillion that were lost on the U.S. stock market on Thursday and Friday, speaking also to these falls overnight in Asia and this difficult opening here in Europe. He believes that all of that pressure will have to be listened to by Washington. And it isn't just coming from Europeans, that message. We've been hearing from Elon Musk over the course of the weekend, speaking to a meeting of the Italian far right. This is what he had to say about tariffs.
I hope it is agreed that both Europe and the United States should move, ideally, in my view, to a zero tariff situation, effectively creating a free trade zone between Europe and North America, and also more freedom of people to move between Europe and North America, if they wish. If they wish to work in Europe or wish to work in America, they should be allowed to do so, in my view. So that has certainly been my advice to the president.
Elon Musk there suggesting that he too is feeling the pain of all this. Europeans, even as they're meeting in Luxembourg, saying that they're going to look at how to strike back, but that also they're leaving the door open to negotiations. They believe that some room for compromise can be found. And bear in mind, Paula, that the European Union is, as a bloc, the United States' largest trading partner. They believe that with the actions, the instruments they have up their sleeve, they can now make themselves heard, even as they seek a better deal with the U.S. administration. Paulo.
Melissa Bell in Paris with a look at the European markets. Thank you, Melissa.
Joining me now to discuss, Errol Louis, host of The Big Deal with Errol Louis on Spectrum News, Jerusalem Dempsis, staff writer for The Atlantic, and Stephen Collinson, CNN Politics senior reporter. So guys, first I just want to kick off this conversation talking about the impact on all of us, people who have 401ks, people who do not. We reached out to the audience and asked people to tell us what they're going through. I want to show you some of the responses, because the stock market is one thing, but when people start thinking about whether they can afford clothes or food, that is very different. So I want to start with the Trump administration's approach, which seems to be trust us. Dempsis?
Hi, Audie. Yeah, I mean, this is a situation where people right now, they're looking at numbers on a screen. They're either looking at stock markets crashing or they're looking at their own 401ks and investments. And then the really scary moment is going to be when and if does that actually impact people's jobs? Do businesses stop making investments? How does that impact our ability to actually build up the manufacturing base that Trump says he wants to build up? So we're really in this moment right now where there's a lot of hope that there maybe won't be long-term harm to regular people, but that seems really ill-placed.
In the meantime, you have someone like Bill Ackman, right? Billionaire hedge fund investor. He, of course, endorsed Trump in the election. And then here he is tweeting that he supports the president's tariffs, but he's also asking him to somehow pause or rethink how he implements them. And Ackman went on to warn that Trump's current plan would result in, quote, economic nuclear war that would scare businesses from investing in America. Stephen, I don't know who is in more denial here, the business world, right? Or people talking about the Trump administration. He has always been clear about how he feels about tariffs. So what do you hear in their scatter reaction?
Well, there is great contradiction in that reaction. Some officials were on TV yesterday saying that this is all part of an attempt to completely transform the global economy and trading system to bring back those manufacturing jobs to the United States. The problem with that is, and Trump said it in his comments on Air Force One there, that's all about eventually. In the short term, there could be great economic pain, not just from markets and depleted retirement funds. The tariffs, most of them, haven't yet come into force. That will take place later this week if the administration decides to carry on and go ahead. That's when prices could start rising for Americans. This is a president that was elected a few months ago, partly on the basis of the fact that he promised to bring down grocery prices and prices for housing. And if prices start shooting up and that starts causing the recessionary factors that Jerusalem was talking about, then this gets a lot more serious.
Errol, I want to bring you in on this as well, because you are going to have countries calling to say, let's make a deal. You are going to have countries that feel like they don't have leverage. So is it working for Trump?
Well, you're going to have countries calling. You're also going to have industry leaders calling. You're going to have individual companies calling. We went through a version of this before, Audie. Let's remember, in the first Trump administration, he imposed tariffs. And there was a flocking of industries to lobbyists. And those lobbyists besieged the first Trump White House with requests for exemptions from these tariffs. That's what the whole game was always about. And Donald Trump never made any bones about it. In that case, there were something like 7,000 requests for exemptions, and about 10 or 14% of them got through. We're going to see world leaders asking for relief. We're going to see companies asking for relief. We're going to see Donald Trump enjoying all of it, and in some perhaps random fashion, granting favors here and there. What that's going to do to the economy, I think it's pretty clear that business leaders are not going to start opening new factories or creating entirely new supply chains based on the whims of the current president. They know that 48 months from now, we're going to have a different president.